You know, every single year, there's this silent global spectacle that unfolds right over our heads. Billions of creatures making these journeys that are so long, so impossibly precise, they almost defy belief. And for decades, we've been scratching our heads trying to figure out how on earth do they pull it off.
I mean, just get a load of the bar-tailed godwit. This bird flies non-stop, from Alaska all the way down to New Zealand. We're talking over 7,000 miles without a single break. No food, no water, just open ocean. It's honestly one of the most incredible feats of endurance in the entire animal kingdom.
And that really brings us to the central mystery, doesn't it? How does this little bird and so many others navigate with such pinpoint accuracy? They don't have maps, they don't have satellites, so what's their secret? Well, let's dive in and find out. To really understand this impossible journey, we've got to think small, like really, really small.
That's right. The answer isn't just in the bird's brain or its instincts. For decades, it's been hiding at the most fundamental level of reality, the quantum level. This is where biology gets seriously weird and absolutely wonderful.
So where is this quantum device? It's not some hidden organ you'd find in a textbook. No, it's hiding in plain sight. It's right inside the bird's eye. Okay, so meet the hero of our story. It's this molecule called cryptochrome 4, or CRY4 for short. It's a special protein that hangs out in the bird's retina, and it can do something extraordinary. It can literally feel the planet's magnetic field. But here's the kicker. It only works when light is present. Now, how it does this has a name that sounds straight out of science fiction, the radical pair mechanism. It sounds super complex, I know, but just think of it as this beautiful little dance between light, chemistry, and quantum physics. Let's break it down. So here's how it goes. First, a photon of blue light zips into the bird's eye and smacks into one of these CRY4 proteins. That jolt of energy creates what's called a radical pair, basically two electrons that are now quantumly linked or entangled. And here's the magic part. These electrons have a property called spin, which makes them act like microscopic compass needles. The Earth's magnetic field, as weak as it is, can actually influence their spin. And that tiny change affects the chemistry, sending a specific signal to the bird's brain. What's just wild is that this quantum link is incredibly fragile. I mean, tech labs spend billions trying to keep this state stable for quantum computers, and yet this little protein does it effortlessly inside a living, breathing bird.
The deep physics of electron spin can make your head, well, spin. But the core idea is actually pretty simple. You can just imagine that each electron in that pair is a tiny, tiny magnet. The Earth's magnetic field is just strong enough to nudge it, to tilt it one way or another. It's literally a compass built out of a single molecule.
Okay, so we've got this incredible quantum reaction happening inside the bird's eyeball. But what does the bird actually see?
Well, this isn't just happening in one little spot. It's happening in CRY4 proteins all across the bird's retina. So as the bird turns its head, the angle between its eye and the Earth's magnetic field is constantly changing. And that creates this shifting pattern of chemical signals all over its field of vision.
The result is mind-blowing. The bird can literally see the Earth's magnetic field. The best way to picture it is like an augmented reality filter laid on top of its normal vision. It's a pattern of light and shadow that tells it which way is north, painted directly onto the world. It's a constant, unjammable directional guide.
But this is where the story takes a sharp turn that you probably weren't expecting. This incredible piece of natural technology hasn't gone unnoticed. And it turns out this isn't just a fascinating topic for biologists. It's a matter of national security. That's because what birds have perfected over millions of years is the exact same thing that human technology is desperately trying to create right now, a foolproof, reliable alternative to GPS.
And I'm not kidding. A lot of the research into this quantum compass is actually being funded by the US Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. They're looking at this biological marvel as a blueprint for the next generation of navigation technology. And the reason is pretty simple, right? GPS is amazing, but it's also incredibly vulnerable. The signals come from satellites way up in space, and those signals can be jammed, they can be spoofed, or they can be denied completely by an enemy. The military needs a way to navigate when GPS goes dark. It really puts things in perspective. On one hand, you have GPS, which relies on these fragile external signals from space. On the other hand, a quantum navigation system, inspired by birds, would use the Earth's own magnetic field. That's a signal that's everywhere, it's always on, and you simply cannot turn it off.
But the story doesn't end with military tech.
The implications of this discovery might actually be way more profound and a lot closer to home than you think. There is one final twist to this tale.
Because that special magnetically sensitive protein, that little CRY4 molecule, well, it isn't unique to birds. In fact, the final piece of this whole puzzle, it's found inside of us.
That's right, we have it too. Research has confirmed it. A human version of the cryptochrome protein is also sensitive to magnetic fields. The basic molecular machinery, the hardware for a magnetic sense, is sitting right inside our own cells.
Which, of course, leads to a pretty wild question. Could this be a kind of ghost in our own machine? The biological leftovers of a magnetic sense that our ancient ancestors might have used, but a sense that we've long since forgotten how to access?
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. This whole incredible biological system was working right under our noses, hidden at the quantum level. It just makes you wonder, what other profound secrets of how the universe works are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to look at the world in a completely new way?
Don't go anywhere, hit subscribe, and we continue.
You know, we tend to think about life in these really neat, separate boxes. You've got plants and you've got animals. They're written in two totally different languages, right? But every once in a while, nature scribbles something in the margins, something so bizarre it makes you question if you know the rules at all.
So let me ask you something. What if an animal could pull off the one trick that's supposed to be for plants only? What if it could just live on light? I know, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but this isn't about the future. This is about a biological heist that's been going down for millions of years, pretty much in plain sight.
So, meet the mastermind, Elysia chlorotica, the Eastern Emerald Elysia. Yeah, at first glance, you'd probably just think it's a leaf, kind of drifting along in the water. But that is no leaf. That is an animal that has pulled off one of the most incredible thefts in the history of evolution. It is, and I'm not exaggerating, a solar-powered slug. So how in the world does it do it? Let's get into it. To really get how wild this is, you gotta remember one of the biggest, most fundamental rules in biology. Animals eat things, and plants make their own food from the sun. It's the classic consumer versus producer setup. Well, this little slug just decided to throw that rulebook right out the window. And let's be clear, this isn't some friendly partnership. It's not like coral, which hosts algae that do the work for it. No, this slug is one of the only animals we know of that can actually perform photosynthesis itself. It literally becomes a living, crawling solar panel. And just so we're all on the same page about what a huge deal this is, remember photosynthesis? It's that amazing process that powers pretty much all life on our planet. Plants have these tiny green engines inside them called chloroplasts, and they use them to turn sunlight, water, and CO2 into pure energy. It is the power source for an entire kingdom of life, and this slug has basically stolen the keys to the factory. Okay, so how does it do it? How does an animal hijack the single most important piece of technology from the plant world? Well, it pulls off a biological crime so perfect, scientists actually gave it a name. The term is kleptoplasty. Klepto, which you probably know, means thief, and plasty refers to the little solar engines, the chloroplasts. The name literally means chloroplast theft. This isn't just some random act. It is a highly sophisticated inside job. All right, so here's the play-by-play of the heist. First, a young slug has to find its one and only target, a specific algae called Vaucheria latoria. It uses this specialized tooth to basically poke a hole in the algae's cells, and then it just slurps out all the contents. But here's the truly brilliant part. Its digestive system is so incredibly precise that it breaks down everything except for the chloroplasts. Those get carefully preserved, moved into the slug's own cells, and spread throughout its body, which is what turns it that beautiful leafy green color. The efficiency here is just mind-blowing. After one solid meal as a juvenile, this slug is basically set for life. It can survive for up to 10 months, almost its entire lifespan, running on nothing but sunlight and its stolen solar power. But that incredible fact is what led scientists to an even bigger, more baffling mystery. See, for decades, this whole thing had scientists completely stumped. Because yes, stealing the chloroplasts is one thing, but keeping them running, that was a totally different problem, a problem that honestly seemed to break the laws of biology as we knew them. Think about it like this. A chloroplast is a high-performance engine, but any engine needs constant maintenance, right? It needs new parts, repairs, and the crew to do the work. In a plant, all the instructions for that maintenance, the blueprints for the repair kits, are stored in the cell's nucleus. The slug steals the engines, sure, but it leaves the factory and all the blueprints behind. So how on earth were these engines not breaking down after a few days, let alone months? The most obvious theory was that the slug must have pulled off an even bigger heist. Scientists figured, okay, it must have also stolen the essential maintenance genes from the algae and literally stitched them into its own DNA. It's a process called horizontal gene transfer. It was a fantastic theory. The only problem? It was completely wrong. Time and time again, researchers sequenced the slug's genome, and nothing. The algal genes just weren't there. The repair manual was missing. This left the entire scientific community scratching their heads. It was a massive puzzle. As one group put it, nobody really understood how it was possible. If the slug didn't have the repair genes, how are these super delicate machines lasting for months inside a totally foreign animal body? For the longest time, nobody had a good answer. And this is just a perfect example of how science really works. You know, when your favorite idea turns out to be wrong, you're forced to look at the whole problem from a brand new angle. And it turns out the real answer wasn't some complex genetic theft, it was something way, way more elegant. And this is where the whole story just flips on its head. It turns out, for years, researchers had been focusing on the wrong suspect. The real genius of this operation wasn't the slug's amazing ability to maintain the engines, it was the slug's choice of which engines to steal in the first place. The secret was in the algae. A breakthrough study finally cracked the case. Researchers compared the chloroplasts from our slug's favorite algae, Vaucheria, to the chloroplasts from spinach. Now, one of the biggest risks for a chloroplast is that photosynthesis creates these nasty byproducts. Think of them like exhaust fumes or rust that damage the machinery from the inside out. And what they found, as you can see right here, was just amazing. The Vaucheria chloroplasts are built to produce incredibly low levels of these damaging fumes. They run cleaner than almost any other chloroplasts out there. So what it all comes down to is this. These are not your average off-the-shelf chloroplasts. These things are special ops. First, they actually come with a few of their own critical repair genes built right in, which is incredibly rare. It's like stealing a car that already has a toolkit and a spare tire in the trunk. Second, as we just saw, they run incredibly clean, so they don't produce a lot of that corrosive waste. And third, they come preloaded with antioxidants that neutralize what little damage does occur. So the whole way of thinking about this had to change. The slug isn't some master geneticist who can hotwire any system. It's more like an expert collector, a connoisseur, who knows to select the one model that's so ridiculously durable and self-sufficient, it barely needs any maintenance at all. Its real genius is just being an incredibly picky eater. Now, this discovery is bigger than just solving a cool biology puzzle. It really opens up a new way of thinking about design, about efficiency. The solar slug isn't just some weird little creature. It's practically a living blueprint for a future where we could start blending living systems with our own technology. And this is a perfect example of what's called biomimicry. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got nature's design perfected over millions of years of trial and error. And on the right, you have us trying our best to catch up. Engineers are now looking at systems just like this one for inspiration to solve some of our biggest energy problems. And this isn't just theoretical. Think about living buildings with walls made of these hyper-efficient algae systems. Inspired by Vaucheria's low-maintenance model, they could be generating clean energy and cleaning the air for months on end with minimal input from us. Or materials that can literally pull CO2 out of the atmosphere and fix it in place, mimicking that same incredible resilience. It all comes back to that one lesson from the slug. Pick the most robust, efficient system you can find. And that's why this matters. The solar slug is this profound, humbling reminder that we are surrounded by genius. I mean, nature has already solved so many of the problems we're desperately trying to figure out. The blueprints for a truly sustainable world, they might not be waiting in some high-tech lab. They might just be hiding in a tide pool, disguised as a leaf. Really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If an animal can figure out how to live on light, what other impossible ideas, what other game-changing technologies are just sitting out there in the natural world waiting for someone to pay close enough attention?
Thanks for watching. Support BioVellum by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Let's explore the secrets of nature together.